September 4, 1944. Early morning. A narrow road outside Chartres, France. A US Army truck driver sits behind the wheel with the engine off. The convoy is not under fire. There are no aircraft overhead, no enemy in sight. Still, nothing moves. Ahead, the road is choked with vehicles, fuel tankers, ammunition trucks, field kitchens, ambulances. Men climb down from cabs and light cigarettes. Others stare down the road, waiting for a signal that does not come. Fuel gauges hover near empty. Engines have been shut down to conserve what little remains. You can almost feel the tension settling in, not panic, but calculation. Every mile not driven now may matter later. Somewhere to the east, armored units are still advancing. Infantry divisions are pushing forward, assuming the supplies will follow. They always have. Until now. A logistics officer walks slowly along the column, notebook in hand. He checks vehicle numbers, makes quick marks, then moves on. He does not raise his voice. There is nothing to order. The problem is not discipline. It is distance. The Allied advance has outrun its own supply system. What began as momentum has become strain. Ports captured behind the front are damaged or incomplete. Rail lines are still being repaired. Roads never meant for sustained heavy traffic are collapsing under constant use. Every mile forward stretches the system thinner. You can almost hear the quiet arithmetic running through every commander's mind. Fuel burned versus fuel delivered. Trucks dispatched versus trucks returned. Time gained at the front versus time lost in transport. The margin is narrowing. This convoy is not delayed by minutes. It is delayed by reality. Inside a nearby command post, maps cover the walls. Arrows point east, bold and confident. Someone has drawn them days ago, when progress felt unstoppable. Now those arrows feel heavier. Officers lean over tables, discussing tonnage rather than terrain. Gallons instead of ground. Decisions that once focused on enemy positions now revolve around road capacity and fuel depots. The battlefield has shifted, quietly, almost invisibly. You can almost feel how unsettling this is. Soldiers are trained to fight obstacles, not shortages. To react to fire, not absence. There is no enemy to engage here. No position to seize. Only a system under pressure. At the front, units begin to feel it first in small ways. Patrols shorten their reach. Tanks idle longer than usual. Artillery fire is measured more carefully. No one announces a crisis. But everyone senses it. Victory has created a new problem. The speed that broke German resistance has also broken the assumptions behind Allied planning. Supplies were calculated for steady advances, not rapid exploitation across hundreds of miles. Now the system must catch up. The convoy driver checks his watch. He has orders to move as soon as fuel arrives. No one knows when that will be. Around him, thousands of similar scenes are unfolding across France. Each delay small on its own. Together, they form a bottleneck capable of halting an entire offensive. You can almost feel the irony. The enemy is retreating. The path forward is open. Yet progress slows anyway. This is the moment few histories linger on. No gunfire, no dramatic collapse. Just trucks standing still, engines silent, waiting for a supply chain stretched to its limit. The war is not being decided at the front today. It is being decided here on roads, in depots, inside calculations no one will ever meddle. And as the Allied command weighs its next move, one question begins to dominate every conversation. What happens if the supplies do not arrive in time? By midday, the silence spreads. Not the silence of defeat, but of machines that cannot move. Across the front, reports filter back. Armored spearheads have slowed. Some have stopped entirely. Infantry units dig in, not because they face resistance, but because there is no certainty about what comes next. Fuel is being rationed now. Not formally announced. Quietly implemented. You can almost feel the shift in tone. Commanders who days earlier spoke in terms of exploitation and pursuit now speak in terms of priorities. Which units move first? Which wait? Which advances can be paused without risking collapse? Every decision creates friction somewhere else. A tank battalion sits just short of a key crossroads. Its crews can see the road stretching east, empty and inviting, but the tanks cannot move. Their remaining fuel is being held for emergencies. A few miles back, trucks loaded with gasoline wait for orders that change hourly. Routes are reassigned. Convoys are split. Some are turned around entirely. The system is improvising. This is the cost of speed. The Allied advance after the breakout from Normandy was faster than any pre-war plan had seriously anticipated. German resistance collapsed unevenly, creating opportunities that could not be ignored. Commanders pushed forward because they could. But logistics does not accelerate on command. Ports take time to repair. Rail networks take time to restore. Truck fleets wear down under constant use. Drivers work around the clock, sleeping beside roads, eating when they can. You can almost feel the exhaustion beneath the momentum. The Red Ball Express hailed as a solution moves vast quantities of supplies forward, but even that effort struggles to keep pace. Roads clog, vehicles break down, tires wear out faster than they can be replaced. Each mile forward costs more than the last. At higher headquarters, planners confront a reality that no amount of optimism can hide. The Allied force is consuming supplies faster than it can deliver them, not because of inefficiency, but because the scale of the advance has outgrown the system supporting it. Choices must be made. Do you support the northern push, hoping to reach critical objectives quickly? Or do you reinforce the south, consolidating gains and reducing strain? Do you pause everywhere or accept risk somewhere? These are not tactical questions. They are logistical ones. You can almost feel how uncomfortable that is for commanders trained to think in terms of terrain and enemy strength. Here, the enemy is distance, and distance is winning. At the front, the effects become visible. Units that expected to keep moving are ordered to hold. Reconnaissance continues, but exploitation slows. German forces, though retreating, begin to recover enough to organize defenses. Time, so precious days earlier, is being handed back. No one wants to admit it, but the offensive is losing momentum not because it has failed, but because it has succeeded too well. Victory has stretched the system to its breaking point. And as fuel convoys inch forward and decisions are delayed by uncertainty, a troubling possibility begins to surface, one that threatens to undo weeks of progress. What if the pause becomes permanent? By the afternoon, the front line becomes a misleading concept. Maps still show divisions advancing east. Arrows still point forward. But the real fight is happening far behind the lead units on roads, at railheads, inside depots struggling to stay functional. Logistics has become a battlefield of its own. You can almost feel how invisible this struggle is to those not looking for it. There are no opposing formations here, no trenches to cross, just constant pressure on systems never meant to operate at this tempo. Truck columns stretch for miles, moving at a crawl. Drivers navigate narrow roads never designed for heavy military traffic. Bridges creak under loads they were not built to bear. Breakdowns multiply. Each stalled vehicle creates a ripple. Each delay compounds the next. Maintenance crews work without pause. Tires are patched instead of replaced. Engines are coaxed along far past recommended limits. Spare parts are scavenged wherever they can be found. This is not inefficiency. It is survival. At railheads, supplies arrive faster than they can be processed. Trains unload into crowded yards where organization becomes guesswork. Fuel, ammunition, food all compete for the same limited transport capacity. You can almost feel the quiet desperation in the calculations. Which unit gets fuel today? Which waits? Which advances? And which holds? Every answer has consequences. Meanwhile, German forces are not blind to this slowdown. They sense it in the reduced pressure, the pauses, the hesitation. Rearguard units buy time. Engineers destroy bridges. Roads are cratered deliberately, not to stop the Allies outright, but to slow them further. Delay is now a weapon. And it works. At Allied headquarters, the tone shifts again. Logistics officers gain influence. Their assessments shape operational planning more than battlefield reports. The pace of war is being dictated by supply charts rather than enemy movements. You can almost feel the frustration among combat commanders. Opportunities seem within reach, yet remain unattainable. The enemy is vulnerable, but only if you can reach him. The hidden battlefield does not reward boldness. It rewards balance. Every gallon of fuel delivered forward must travel hundreds of miles. Every mile increases wear. Every breakdown reduces capacity. The system operates on thin margins, and those margins are eroding. This is the reality of modern war. Not the clash of armies, but the strain of sustaining them. As the Allies attempt to stabilize their supply network, repairing ports, restoring rail lines, reallocating transport, the offensive hangs in suspension, neither advancing nor retreating, waiting. The danger is not immediate defeat. It is lost opportunity, because war rarely pauses for long. And as the supply system struggles to regain equilibrium, one question becomes increasingly urgent, one that will decide whether momentum can be restored or whether the enemy will recover. How long can an army wait before waiting becomes weakness? As the supply crisis deepens, Allied command faces a reality it cannot escape. Not everything can move. Fuel, trucks, and road space are finite. The front is wide. The demands are endless. To continue everywhere is to fail everywhere. So choices are made, quietly, deliberately, and with consequences that will echo for weeks. At higher headquarters, priorities replace ambition. Some units are designated to receive fuel first. Others are told to hold, regardless of what lies ahead of them. You can almost feel how unnatural this feels to commanders who have spent weeks pushing forward without restraint. Now restraint is mandatory. An armored division that expected to exploit a retreat is ordered to pause. Its fuel allocation is redirected elsewhere. Infantry units advance on foot, carefully, knowing heavy support may not follow. Momentum is being rationed. This is the unseen cost of logistics-driven warfare, not failure, but uneven success. Every gallon sent north is a gallon not sent south. Every truck assigned to one corps is unavailable to another. The front does not advance as a single wave, it lurches, surges in some sectors while freezing in others. You can almost feel the tension this creates between formations. No one wants to be the unit told to wait. Every commander believes his axis is decisive. But logistics does not care about intent. It cares about capacity. The strain forces innovation not in weapons, but in organization. Supply routes are simplified where possible. Loads are standardized. Non-essential movements are cut entirely. Some units are stripped of transport so others can continue. It is a harsh calculus. Yet it prevents collapse. The goal now is not speed, but coherence. Keeping the force supplied enough to remain effective, even if that means abandoning immediate opportunity. German forces, sensing the uneven pressure, attempt to exploit it. They concentrate where Allied movement slows. They counterattack cautiously, testing whether pauses signal weakness. Sometimes they succeed. Sometimes they do not. What matters is that the initiative is no longer absolute. The Allies are still stronger, still advancing. But the illusion of unlimited momentum is gone. You can almost feel how this changes planning. Operations are redesigned to fit supply reality rather than ideal conditions. Objectives are scaled to what can be supported, not what can be reached. This is a maturation moment. The offensive survives not by pushing harder, but by accepting limits. And as supply lines slowly stabilize, ports repaired, rail lines reopened, transport reorganized, the system begins to breathe again. Not fully, not yet, but enough to continue. The crisis has not ended. It has been managed. And in war, that distinction can mean the difference between recovery and collapse. As the Allies hold their line and prepare for the next phase, one final uncertainty hangs over every plan. Will the supply system recover in time? Or has the window for decisive exploitation already closed? By early autumn, the worst has passed, but only just. Supplies begin to flow again, unevenly at first, then with growing reliability. Rail lines reopen in segments. Temporary depots expand. Convoys move with clearer priorities and fewer interruptions. The system has not recovered. It has stabilized. You can almost feel the difference in how commanders talk. The urgency remains, but the panic is gone. Decisions are still constrained, but they are no longer blind. Fuel allocations increase slightly. Enough to move, not enough to waste. Units that were frozen begin to inch forward again. Tanks roll, then stop, then roll again, never far from the limits of what the supply chain can support. This is not the return of momentum. It is the prevention of collapse. The lesson is unmistakable. The Allied advance did not nearly fail because of enemy action. It nearly failed because success outpaced preparation. Logistics, long treated as a supporting function, proved capable of halting armies without firing a shot. You can almost sense how this reshapes thinking at every level. Operations are no longer planned on optimism alone. Supply officers are consulted early. Routes are protected as carefully as objectives. Distance becomes a factor equal to enemy strength. The hidden battlefield has revealed itself, and it will not be ignored again. German forces never fully regain the initiative. They lack the strength and resources to exploit the pause decisively, but they survive it. They buy time. Time that will later be paid for in harder fighting. The Allied command understands this now. The day the supply lines nearly broke did not end in disaster, but it came close enough to change everything. From this point forward, victory will depend not just on advancing faster than the enemy, but on advancing only as fast as supply allows. The war continues. Wiser, more constrained, and far more aware of the quiet systems that decide outcomes long before battles are fought.